Namaste everyone, welcome to this webinar, and we are going to take up this topic, retirement or retired life, guidance from Geetā. Really, this matter of retirement is a superficial change. All the same, we will look at it from certain angles of view. Some people retire early, some people retire late. Some people, even if they are 65, 70, 75, are very energetic, very vibrant, and full of enthusiasm. Some others are different. Therefore, I would once more say this concept of retired life or the point of retirement is rather debatable. However, we are going now by a certain typical scenario. Typically, people around 60 or 65 years retire from certain profession where, let us say, they were going to a particular workplace for 30 years, 40 years, and so on. Even if they had changed companies, changed places, broadly speaking, 30 to 40 years, they were having a kind of life where 9 to 5, typically again, they were busy. And now they are free from it. Maybe they are more at home. Maybe they have more flexible hours. So all this just to mean that this retired life is not as uniform, as identical as one would want to imagine. It varies from person to person. With those limitations in mind, all the same, let us look at retirement from a Shastraic point of view. In the good old system, Sanatana Dharma, we had what we called Vanaprastha. After student life, Brahmacharya, and then householder's life, Grahastha Ashrama, one was to take up Vanaprastha Ashrama. It literally meant leave home, go to a forest or a forest-like place, live there, turning inward. Let me clarify right away. In modern times, going to that kind of place is almost ruled out. Therefore, it is change of way of living rather than going to some place like forest that would mark Vanaprastha in today's times. A small percentage of people may get a chance to live in some kind of ashram-like atmosphere, where again there will be many people and there will be many other issues, if not problems. But by and large, majority may be on their own, in their own houses, and the main question is, how do they spend their time? So this webinar will give some guidance on desirable, healthier ways of spending time rather than change of place. Secondly, there was also a question in this so-called Vanaprastha, even as adapted to modern times, are we supposed to do charity? Are we supposed to give back to the society materially or in other ways what we had got from the society during our active professional life? Frankly speaking, while it is a wonderful thing to try to give back, to do charity, to help people financially or in other forms, it's a wonderful idea. But the Shastra says people are made differently and everybody doesn't have to go by a standard model. One must recognize one's swadharma. One must recognize how one is made. There are some of us who have as part of our Swadharma, reaching out to the society and giving our time, our money, our energy, etc. And there are many among us whose Swadharma it is not to serve the society in those standard ways. In fact, both humorously and seriously, I would go to the extent of saying that some among us would serve the society better if they don't get into any social work. Think about it, that's homework for you. One must understand one's swadharma and operate within that swadharma. Swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayavaha, says our own Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, we must try to give back to the society, but we must go about it cautiously. We must relate with the society in the most appropriate way as our Swadharma would guide us. Now, plunging into the theme proper, guidance from Gita with regard to retired life, let me say that the whole of Gita is full of guidance. Gita guides us whether we are working full time, working half time, retired. Gita is never tired. Even if we are tired, Gita would guide us whether we are tired or retired. In fact, among the 18 points that I have gathered, among 100 or more that I could have, one of them picks from the very first shloka of the Bhagavad Gita. All of you know the Gita begins with Dhritarashtra, the old blind king, asking Sanjaya, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsavaha mamakaha pandavaschaiva kim akurvata Sanjaya. The word mamakaha itself, through interpretation, has guidance for retired life. In fact, it is in a negative manner. Dhritarashtra suffered from an excessive amount of my children versus those children of Pandu. In retired life, we must reduce the sense of I and my. We must give space to our children, we must take space to ourselves, and we should not have an undue attachment to children or other relatives, etc., as my people, my students, my former juniors, etc. So that is one piece of guidance that is on a psychological front. You know, this idea of I and my is psychological. There is nothing objective about it. To feel this is my former student, that is my youngest son, etc., is more in the mind than physiologically or physically. Hunger and thirst are physiological. No one would say hunger is a mental problem. Hunger is the body's nature. So in that sense, we would emphasize that Bhagavad Gita's most powerful teachings actually free us from certain psychological hang-ups that tend to hold us in their clutches. Now coming to some simple stuff in the beginning. I may not be able to cover all the 18 selected points in one webinar. Let's see how many we can do now. Let's start with a simple thing. Now, some of the things that I'm going to share with you, drawing from the Gita, are such that one doesn't have to wait for retirement to practice them, but generally or typically what happens is, in the hurry-burry of working life, under various pressures of earning, of saving, of taking care of the family, of responding to responsibilities at work, at this hectic pace of the so-called work life, one would not have been able to take care of these things, which actually one must do at all the time. So, what is that? The first one I'm sharing with you is right food. Right food should be something that we take all our life, childhood onwards. But to repeat just once more, somehow, especially some of us who travel a lot, maybe in some sales, marketing, and such, work, fail to ensure that we take right food wherever we go, whatever is available, and of course, yielding to some temptations, we just take food. So, Bhagavad Gita says in the 17th chapter, in fact, Gita has a lot of guidance on how we may change our lifestyle. Today, even the medical community would say to us that a whole lot of our health issues are because of wrong lifestyle. So, coming to this point, food, the shloka number 8 of chapter 17 very qualitatively points out what right food is. Ayusattva balarogya sukha priti vivardhana rasya snigdha hrid stira hridya ahara satvika priya. Puja Swami Chinmayananji used to say these pointers from Gita are valid in two ways. Such and such food, if taken, would make us sattvic, number one. Number two, sattvic people would go for such and such food. Both ways it works. If you are sattvic, this is the kind of food you will take. If you take this kind of food, you will slowly become more and more sattvic. All right, what is this so called sattvic food, right food? Qualitatively, that which is which makes you feel healthier, feel energetic, feel fit, feel a sense of cheerfulness within yourself. So, today there is a lot of research, and you and I need to go by our conscience. Otherwise, I should admit that different people come to us. Some say take milk, some say don't take milk, some say take honey, some say don't take honey. Some ask us to become vegan on one extreme, and some others say any food is all right as long as you take it in moderation, and so on and so forth. So you study, and whatever appeals to you, whatever you find out by your own experience, that this kind of food makes me more cheerful, it keeps me energetic, light, enthusiastic, both physically and emotionally also. I feel more balanced with this kind of food. Whereas the other kind of food gives me a kick for a moment, but in half an hour again I feel tired or sleepy, or I lose my mood for work, etc. You find out by yourselves. So, the second point, counting that Mamaka has the first point that I am sharing with you in this webinar is it's never too late. All these 60 years you should have done, but you did not. Now, in your retired life, take healthy food, healthy, sattvic food. When they asked Sri Ramana Maharshi, what is the best code of conduct or rule that one may follow in daily life to facilitate, to promote self inquiry, Maharshi said, Sattvic food in moderate quantity. Goes so well with the shloka that is 17.8 in Gita. Right there, a couple of verses later, Bhagavad Gita asks us to do one more thing, which once more we should have done before, but typically with all those pressures, we would have found it hard to do. Now, never too late. That is, bring about dramatic change in your way of speaking. Speak truthfully. and speak in a pleasing manner. In the same 17th chapter, 15th shloka has this to say, Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam cha yat swadhyayabhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. We have taken two shlokas thus from chapter 17 itself. There is much more that one may draw from chapter 17. The second one I have chosen from 17th chapter is speech should be, how we talk should be anudvegakaram. As far as possible, we should express things both verbally and by body language in such a way that people are not agitated, they are not provoked, or they are not tempted to do something wrong. Our speech should be properly moderated. Anudvegakaram, priyam, it should be pleasing. Satyam, most important actually, it should be truthful. Once more, childhood onwards, we should have been truthful. But then, here and there, circumstances at work, at home, in the society, make us either openly speak a falsehood or sometimes not reveal the truth, hide something, turn our face away. And we do this sometimes even with our near and dear ones. Can we, in our retired life at least, try our maximum, try the best possible to speak truthfully and in a pleasing manner? Sometimes all it needs is a certain homework. What good thing in life doesn't need homework? Tell me. Anything and everything you want to do well requires certain homework. Financial investments, you need to study the papers and make a wise investment. Even to make a delicious meal, one has to gather all the samagri, all the material that is needed, fresh vegetables or fresh other things required to make a delicious meal. If you don't do the necessary homework, at the 11th hour, you want to prepare a meal and then say, oh, this is missing. These tomatoes are not fresh. Oh, that vegetable is not in such good shape, and so on. Without homework, you can't prepare even a good meal. Likewise, having done some homework, we can actually speak truthfully and speak in a pleasing manner. Number 4 now, Bhagavad Gita is uncompromising when it says, before you reach the heights of Brahma Vidya, take care about living rightly, and in the context of living rightly, invest your time and energy in your own health. In fact, I was thinking this morning about this retirement, and in Chinese philosophy, I guess, they have a certain concept of yin and yang. When yin increases, yang decreases. And when yang increases, yin decreases. All of you have seen that circular graphic where you have the yin and yang increasing and decreasing. When one is large, another is just a dot. And when one becomes a dot, the other becomes large. Now, what's its connection with retirement? I have something to share with you here. As you and I get older, whether we like it or not, by law of nature, our body becomes weaker. But good news for you, even as the body becomes weaker, our mind is more mature, more mellowed. Our anger, our lust, our jealousy, our greed, etc. Because life teaches us various lessons. We observe and understand everything. So inwardly, we are enriched. We are wiser to lesser or greater extent. One of you may say, sorry, Swamiji, I don't think I have grown wiser at all. I'm as stupid as ever before. That is very humble and modest of you to say, but I would not believe it. Everyone, as one gets older, does get wiser. Of course, some learn a lot and some learn less. So, if you think of body as in, the mental maturity is young. Body becomes weaker, mind becomes more mature. What is more, mind also in a certain sense becomes weaker, like memory and so on. As we get older, we don't get names of people, phone numbers or house numbers, and varieties of things. There are all kinds of cases. Some have short-time memory and problem with the distant memories. Some are other way around. Various ways. So I would go to the extent of saying here also there is a good news, especially from a spiritual point of view. When your mind, in terms of memory or speed or the amount of information that you can handle, etc., becomes weak. Mind is weak in that sense. Again, because of spiritual studies, you spiritually are stronger. Let the mind lose memory. Let the mind go slow. Let the mind have less capacity for handling information. What is important as we grow older and older is not this memory or such things, but being able to remain balanced. Therefore, in fourth chapter, where Sri Krishna mentions a number of spiritual practices, calling them all yajnas, he calls them yajnas. We have, for example, the 28th verse in chapter 4. In a single verse, he gives several yajnas. Dravya yajnas, tapo yajnah, yoga yajnas, tatapare, swadhyaya jnana yajnascha, yatayas samshita vratah. In a single shloka, 4 or 5. In fact, in 4 or 5 shlokas, he gives some 12 yajnas. Some count it as 13 or 14. And Lord Krishna himself says towards the end of that topic, Evam bahuvidha yajnaha vitataha brahmano mukhe. Brahma here means Vedas. In the Vedas, many yajnas are mentioned. But the topic of interest to us at this moment is Yoga Yajna. Yoga is here, at least in this context, a very broad term. It need not be Patanjali's yoga marked by asana, pranayama, and further stages. You do Dai Chi, you do morning walk, you do sit a little while in sun because Surya is the source of energy. You do Western workout, whatever. Investing in health, your time, your energy in health. Don't just read books on yoga and all forms of exercise. Perform exercise. So Yoga Yajna for me is very symbolic or very representative of many kinds of exercises. You and I may choose whatever suits us the best. And retired life, we must give higher priority to regular exercise. Prevention is better than cure. If we say, oh no, all my life I have not been an exercise person, now why should I try it, and so on. 99% chances out of 100 are that you will fall sick and you will forgive. You will spend a lot on medical bills. I carefully said 99 because much against logic in this world, there are 1 out of 100 who don't do any exercise at all, but they are very fit, very fine. Last month, in fact, I took a walk with a 78-year-old man in Lal Bagh in Bangalore. And this 78-year-old man said to us, a bunch of us, Vibha Chaitanya and others were with me, this elderly gentleman said to us, smilingly, all his life he has not done any exercise. no Western, no Eastern, nothing. But he is an active person. I think from morning 4:30 or so, his life begins. He reads several newspapers and then shoots off into various activities. And he is, God bless him, and fit and fine. Better, more fit than many of us who periodically do exercises, if not daily. But that is exception. Exceptions prove the rule. 1 out of 100 doesn't prove the rule. 1 out of 100 has to be kept aside. There are some other factors. Maybe some grandmother's punya. In our village, they used to say, Aji punya, grandmother's punya, and this person keeps fit. Otherwise, if we don't prevent illnesses, sicknesses, then we spend so much on medical bills. So I would share with you, Yoga Yajna stands for investing time and energy in health through exercise, through other factors which also come. The very next point number 5 I am sharing with you now is Bhagavad Gita, which is known for Brahman and Atman and Swarga and Naraka and so on, also teaches us, you know it well, on how all our activities have to be in proper moderation. For example, sleep. The next point is about sleep. The 17th verse in chapter 6 says one should not excessively sleep. In fact, yoga is said to be available to them who neither sleep too much nor sleep too less. Let me pick just an expression. In verse number 17 of chapter 6, we have the expression Yukta Swapna Avabodhasya Yogo Bhavati Dukkhaha. Yukta means moderate, neither excess nor less. Swapna is sleep, Avabodha is keeping awake. Gita doesn't allow us either to sleep too much or to sleep too less either. No. In fact, sometimes you hear about somebody, very dynamic person, and suddenly dies of heart attack or some problem. There was someone whose name I don't remember. Some years ago, he was in the IT sector and was a brilliant person. But at the age of 45 or so, in a hotel room in England, he passed away. He was holding, if I remember right, a high position in NASCOM, some body that controls information technology affairs. And this wonderful blue-eyed boy passed away at the age of 45 or so. And everyone was shocked. And then they found that he was regular in his exercise. He was very self-disciplined. They used to be amazed at his cheerfulness, dynamism. He would come back from a tour of US or Europe at 2 a.m. and next morning 8:30 a.m. he is at his office. They would admire all that. So they were wondering, such a wonderful person, no bad habits, no smoking, no alcohol, and such cheerful guy. What made him die like this? Then it was pointed out that this man, if he had neglected one thing, that was sleep. He was very enthusiastic, but he overestimated himself or his own body. He very often slept so less, 3 hours one night, another night maybe 3.5 hours, catching flights, international travel, and all that. So Bhagavad Gita says, wrong, it is wrong, it is wrong. Do not deny to the body necessary amount of sleep. If you think 7 hours you need, sleep 7 hours at night. Give to the body adequate rest. If we did not do, we neglected. We would have neglected. During work life, a lot of things we neglect because we are made to run so many pressures from above, below, and more than all that from inside. Notions of having to perform, having to prove our worth makes us neglect. right lifestyle. So never mind, in retired life, sleep adequately. And whatever you want to do in the remaining, like 7 hours is your real requirement, 8 hours is your requirement, sleep 8 hours. The remaining 16 hours, live wisely. Yukta swapna avabodhasya. Now, talking of lifestyle, which has to be moderated, which has to be made more sane, healthier way of lifestyle and whatnot, we can of course not afford to ignore what is called training our own senses. Among the 8 points that the well-known teacher Eknath Ishwaran shared with his students, an 8 point program for daily spirituality, one of them was train your senses. And Bhagavad Gita in chapter 3, 34th verse cautions us, Indriyasya indriyasyarthe ragadvesha vyavastitav. No matter how scholarly we are, how intelligent or talented we are, generally 99 out of 100 cases, our indriyas, eyes, ears, and so on, are drawn towards pleasure, and equally they dislike certain objects, certain persons, certain situations. Likes and dislikes rule the roost. They are powerful, and very lovingly Sri Krishna says, Tayoho na vasham agachet. These likes and dislikes do exist. Let's accept that that's a reality of life. But that doesn't mean we have to come under their sway. Therefore, Swami Chinmayananda used to define freedom itself. Not to do what you feel like doing is freedom, he would say. You feel like eating something. You feel like going for a second helping, third helping. Or you feel like just talking on and on. Even on phone, the other guy says, sorry, please make it brief. I need to go somewhere. Oh, yes, I'll tell you in another minute. And you go 10 minutes more. And you don't stop at all. No. There, that is like you are going, you are carried away. So it's understandable that you feel like saying, but don't get carried away by that. When the other man over the phone has specifically requested that please keep it brief, make it brief, trim down in food or in speech, all these activities of the senses, we need to restrain, not in a negative or in suppressive manner, but out of understanding. Understanding that more than this will not be good for my health, more than this will put the other person at the other end of the telephonic conversation into much inconvenience. Out of understanding, you gently hold back. So in retired life, dear friends, you and I will have to train our senses. For example, if somebody is very fond of coffee, can he begin right away saying, when I get up, I'll drink some warm water, maybe with honey or lemon or something. And this coffee, which I love, will be after an hour or maybe after breakfast. I love coffee, but not till breakfast. This is training the senses, because the senses would say, get up and immediately go for strong coffee. Likewise, everyone has to find out where our senses have got enslaved to pleasures and equally enslaved against certain things that we may dislike. So, Ragadveshayoho Vasham na agachet is third chapter, 34th verse. As most of you have received, these points have been covered in an email also, which has gone to most of you. And those who haven't got it may ask for it. These have been elaborated, and an essay has been sent to people in the list of subscribers. Now, after these, where I spoke of food and sleep and speech and exercise, which are relatively in the philosophical scale grosser, I take up a point which is sometimes considered as the main thrust of Bhagavad Gita, if not by Vedantins, by others like Gandhi and Tilak and so on. This has been taken as the thrust, as the main message of Gita. What is that? The celebrated Karma Yoga. If 60, 65, 70 years we were not able to pay enough attention to it in the so-called retired life, let us do Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga is not about any specific karma, not about social service, not about the length of time uh, during which you do something, not about more and more activity. Karma Yoga is an attitudinal shift. Whatever we do, generally our mind makes a big issue of what we got. I did so much and I was not appreciated. I worked so hard for these children and these children don't respect me now, says a father or a mother. Or a teacher may say, I taught all these girls and boys. They did not know anything. I taught them from scratch. Today they don't even say namaste to me. Oh, this is so sad, etc. Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna says, in our entire life, when we do something as duty, out of love, that is wonderful. The moment our mind starts brooding over what we got, and what is more, makes an issue of it, to take cognizance that someone is not respecting us enough or responding properly, to take note of it is all right. But to waste our energy on the thought, why am I not loved enough? Why am I not respected enough? Why am I not compensated enough? Why am I not reciprocated in whatever, materially or otherwise? To waste our energy on what we got, are getting, or will get, that is called phalasakti. And in retirement life, when we have a certain amount of freedom, certain flexibility, certain slow pace available to us, that is the best time to become aware of how much we hang on to this idea of what we got, what is there in it for me, and so on. To become aware and then to let go of those excessive expectations. Some expectation is all right. It is not possible to eliminate them. But when the mind, one morning, the mind goes on thinking, I did so much and now they don't even remember, no mention is made of me, and we start grinding our teeth. Then we must say, Bhagavad Gita asks us not to make an issue of what the other party gave to us. I gave my best, I did all that. That was privilege for me. I'm happy I could do that for the organization, for the family, for the trust. Sometimes somebody works a lot for an ashram, and even in spiritual organizations also, someone then leaves. At one time he was secretary or president or treasurer, and it was he or it was she who actually took great pains to make the ashram come up in some place. And later on, something happens and that person is gracefully or sometimes not even gracefully asked to leave. And then no mention of that person is made. That person is in the same town, and that person comes to know how the ashram is doing so well. but no mention is made of him. And in other words, this is so everywhere. But the person should say, no problem. Today that ashram is doing so well, but I was part of the team when the Swamijis, the Gurus, etc. came, and I was one of the householders who ran around and raised funds and sweated, and it came up. And those days, Swamijis were so appreciative. Swamijis also have gone their way, and the newcomers, the new people don't even know, etc. Forget it. Retirement life is not to carry all this past. Leave the past. And rather than feeling sad, pat yourself on the back that I am happy that I could do all that for a noble work, for a noble organization. Last point for this seminar, or the seminar on the web called webinar, and that is I'm using a bit of an idiomatic expression. Let not water enter the boat. Let water not enter the boat. What is this idiom? It is amply clear. When a boat is going on a river, even if there are millions of gallons of water around, no problem. But if water comes into the boat, you are going to sink. Likewise, in 5th chapter, 27th verse, Sri Krishna says to us, remember again and again, around you, many things can go wrong. Situations can go wrong. That is like water around you. But don't allow situations to enter your bosom. Don't internalize things. Don't take things too personally. Stay objective. Now you may say, where does Bhagavad Gita talk about objectivity? In the 27th verse of chapter 5, we have a very interesting expression. Sparshan kritva bahir bahyan. In the prose order of this, bahyan sparshan bahir kritva. That is the prose order. Sparsha here is literally touch. Touch and smell, taste and all the sense objects. The sense objects which are bahya, which are outside. What is outside may please remain outside. Don't allow it to come inside. Bahyan sparshan bahikritva. Keep what is outside only. Don't take into your heart. This is the couple of tips that Sri Krishna gives. And as you know, end of chapter 5 is followed by chapter 6, which is on meditation. Thus, Bhagavad Gita asks us to practice objectivity. So again and again, on various levels, healthier practices are advised to us. That is how retirement or retired life can take us to greater inner well-being. It is all about rediscovering our own spiritual fitness, which is ever present, but body and mind tend to hijack us. Let me pause here, and as always, I welcome some questions or comments. In another session, we shall cover the remaining points, taking them to a total of 18, while more are possible. Om Namo Narayana.
Swamiji, Ranjan Desai is ready to ask question.
Okay, that's good. So Ranjan is here and his microphone is enabled. Yes, Ranjan.
Namaskar, Swamiji. It was very nice to hear you. I just remembered about the chapter 17, verse 15. I'd asked you many years back, and Anudvegakaram Vakyam Satyam Prihitam Jaita. And you had given me an example of how Hanuman, like the Hanuman Jayanti is coming up pretty soon now. So you had about Hanuman, how Hanuman talks with the right tone, with always truthful and with nice grammar, and
That's true. That's a portion from Valmiki Ramayana.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you. I just remembered that you had
very nice. Correct. See how they connect. Yeah, Geetā and Ramayana connect well there. Yes. That's nice of you, Ranjan.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. Now,
Geetā Sharma has a
text question.
It's not a question.
So,
but
okay, let me read it for everybody's benefit. Anita ji says, great, helpful pointers, Swamiji. Thanks. And now there is one more. Thank you, Anita ji, for your encouraging words. And yeah, we have been trained to advise everybody with helpful pointers. That's what we are doing. But practice-wise, you and I, all of us have to practice this. Now coming to one more text question by Rita Singh. Thanks, Swamiji. Great talk as usual. I love. Let not the water enter the boat. Yes. So Rita ji has appreciated that idiomatic expression. Let not the water enter the boat. And let's see now, anyone with the Krish Chilukuri has a question. Yes, sir, Radha. Hari Om.
So this is an exercise that is not possible during the working life. It's only possible in retirement. I was wondering you can give a comment on this exercise.
Which exercise?
I'll try to describe it. It's a simple. So we spend so much time reading, listening, talking, etc., etc. I wonder if Vanaprastha really means silence, meaning in retirement you can practice silence. Enough books, enough knowledge, enough emails, enough, etc., etc. What is the benefit of total silence, and is it actually an aberration as opposed to a benefit?
Oh, silence is a charming idea, but vast majority among us are simply not capable of silence. It is like how meditation is so much prescribed. We once in a while, or very often actually, we hear nothing else is necessary, just meditate. The ground reality is vast majority of people cannot meditate. They go to sleep. They get very agitated. All right, coming back to silence, in principle, we do agree. If one can remain silent, watching thoughts, observing one's own reactions, perhaps there is no higher spiritual exercise than that. And a whole lot that we said even in this webinar will just happen if one is able to remain silent and watch one's own ways. Like corollaries follow theorems, a whole lot that we said about food or speech or sleep, etc., would automatically follow if one has that silent self-awareness. But this silence and this silent self-awareness, even though we deeply appreciate it at times, somehow slips off because it is very subtle. So to answer your question or your remark in one sentence, we fully agree. Silence is on top of the pyramid of things that one may do in Vanaprastha. It's a golden thing. Yeah.
So, Swamiji, my comment was more as a upasana, not as a realized silence. More like if we enforce silence, say for a period of 1 month, which is not the higher level of internal silence. this is
Yeah,
something you can do only in retirement because otherwise you're too busy.
that's
But
the kind of pasana, yeah, kind of practice.
yeah,
You
that's
are right. In fact, I must tell you, since you live in San Diego, years ago, maybe you also were with me. Some of us went to that Deer Park Monastery of Thich Nhat Hanh near San Diego. And there they have an interesting practice. If I remember right, every hour they ring a bell, and that 100 acres campus, people are doing various things. Some are in the agricultural field, some are in some carpentry workshop, some are cooking, some are in some temple worship. No matter what they are doing, no matter where they are, the hundreds of spiritual seekers in that huge ashram of Thich Nhat Hanh, when the bell rings, the rule there is they just have to leave everything. If somebody is holding a hammer, he puts the hammer down, and for a whole minute, one full minute, 60 seconds, one has to be silent. I think one may repeat a mantra or something. So, in all religious traditions, like you called it upasana, uh, packaged in a certain way, certain withdrawal is practiced, and definitely it helps a lot. Like I talked about in a parallel way, if someone is very attached to coffee, make a rule not for the first 2 hours or something. So, likewise, if we are all attached to thinking, talking, expressing, but here and there, not now, no thinking now. So, withdrawal for a while, which may not be deep enough, which may not be, as you said, enlightened silence, but still the ability to withdraw time and again can go a long way, I suppose. Did I get closer to what you had in mind?
I recently, very much, absolutely. I recently heard of a gentleman who tried it, and he
Ah,
said it took him a month before all the words in his head would stop. Total
okay.
silence, no email,
Right.
no newspaper, nothing. It took him a month for the word would stop coming. That's what he said. So, thank you so much.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we go now over to Prasad Vepa. Please, Prasad ji.
Hari Om, Swamiji, wonderful pointers as always. I have a question and an observation, and then I would like you to comment on it, if you will, please. If you think of our life as a journey, and say the typical person in the US retires, say, around 65. I'm just kind of generalizing. People don't necessarily do that, but that's the Social Security retirement age is 65. And the average life expectancy is, I think, north of 85, about 87 or something. So you got some 20 years ahead of you. So if you think of it as a journey in a car, 75% of the journey is behind you in the rear view mirror, and only 25% is in the front, and looking through the windshield of the car.
Yeah.
So does that not mean that you have a much greater and a more heightened obligation to live the remaining years, which are like the sands in an hourglass that are dwindling downwards? A greater obligation to live more mindfully, purposefully, reflectively, just as the previous scholar talked about the inner journey. Seems like the Vanaprastha would require you to be more reflective. And what are your thoughts on that? To me, it's like every day we should be more awake to that. And am I living, in giving back or whatever way, or fulfilling the paramo dharma of knowing the truth and knowing Brahman? So I would like you to comment on this greater obligation to live mindfully.
Certainly, there cannot be more emphasis on that. You have said what is so true. It is extremely important that considering so many years we have lost already, we must now, without any further delay, live mindfully. But that is where Maya comes in. This world is such that when we have a certain sense of control, something comes up which seems to be duty. You got to do this. You owe him this. You owe her that. This is what you owe to the organization, society, family, and it becomes difficult. We get confused, and in the name of duty, or in the sense of I owe him or her, so we get into certain things, and then that mindfulness tends to be lost. That's where all the teachers come in. Like I cited the example of that Thich Nhat Hanh monastery near San Diego. They have given tips every 1 hour, every 2 hours. I have heard similar thing with Mother Teresa's centers. There also they have a bell or some such thing, and all the inmates, no matter what they are doing, have to stop, pray for a minute, then get back to their work. So there is no denying of the urgency of having to live a spiritual life, a mature life, but one has to figure out how one can go about it. Start small and grow big, it is said. Eknath Ishwaran used to say, small victories lead to big victories. So we have a lot of statements, lot of quotations, but then this eternal debate between intelligence and will goes on. We have intelligence, we know, but when temptation stares us in the face, our willpower crashes. What is that? In Bible, I believe it is said, right? The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So in small and big matters, those of us who even advise everybody to be mindful, lose our own mindfulness. So, Prasadji, there is absolutely no second opinion on this. Considering that we have maybe 20 years left, 15 years left, whatever, we need to really stop doing wasteful things and live mindfully, simplify life. As someone in Bangalore said to me when I started discussing something, some project, some writing, book, etc., the gentleman said, no other project. I have only Atma Yatra left. Atma Yatra is the soul's journey, not this outer writing, reading, editing, etc. So we must be focused on Atma Yatra. Hope I touched upon the issue raised.
Thank you, Swamiji. That's helpful. Yeah.
So we now come to Purna. I think, yes, her hand is up here. Self-muted. Now it's on. Yes, Purna ji.
Namaste, Swamiji. And
Namaste.
I was listening with great interest to Mr. Chilupuri's talk about silence and solitude. And this occurred to me that I have been through a course of meditation called Vipassana, where for 10 days we were in absolute silence and meditation. The first 3 days was like torture, but then you get so used to being very quiet and living in solitude that you learn to come to terms with yourself. And now, Swamiji, I want to just tell you something really interesting about what has happened in my own life. I live in solitude because I live alone. And now,
Yes.
unfortunately, this is what I wanted you to talk about. This kind of solitude leads to social isolation because I just don't feel like, commuting with people, talking, gossiping, or just having even a very relaxed chit chat makes me feel I'm wasting my time. So Swamiji, I'd really like you to comment on it because this year I'll be 76 and I feel, whatever little time is left, do I have to always live in this kind of very, seeking solitude, which is sometimes very beneficial, but sometimes also harmful to the human being?
Correct. Well, all I can say is take the middle path. Do not isolate yourself. Be selective in your contacts with society. And I think in a big city where you live, like Mumbai, you have choices. There are balanced people. There are good activities. There are contacts who don't distract you or waste your time. So in a moderate way, one has to be in touch, because in the name of solitude or practicing silence, one should not allow the instruments, mind and intellect, to get into some kind of dullness. So to keep the mind and intellect a bit sharp for spiritual purposes, some interaction is advised, especially in Jnana Marga. Some discussion, spiritual discussion or discussion over values. Spiritual doesn't have to mean Atma and Brahma and so on, but things like values, like other day you talked of some books, the road to character, and then there was another book by that same author, climbing the second mountain in a,
Yes.
yeah, those are wonderful exercises, wonderful topics which one can engage. And then if you have a couple of people who also take interest and discuss this climbing the second mountain, for others who don't know what it is, let me say the first mountain is our work life, where we gain some positions and so on. The second mountain is the inward journey, in a manner of saying. So there are, to sum it up, there are valuable, meaningful exercises for the mind, for the speech, which should not be dispensed with. We should not be put to cold storage. So in a moderate way, you must keep in touch with the people, and then it will enrich your silence and solitude, and the silence and solitude will bring greater quality to your interaction with people. So at every age, whether one is 66 or 76, one has to find what is the optimum balance. Then you will enjoy life much more. That's all I can share.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Thank
So
you.
now we go to Andy. Andy's mic is okay. Andy's mic is on now. Yes, Andy.
Hari Om Swamiji and
Hari Om.
Hari Om Bebaji. I had a question about the physical fitness and exercise.
Yeah.
For a sincere Vedanta seeker, committing to an exercise program in retirement is still a bondage, isn't it? If we are a true Vedanta seeker, we should be able to lock ourselves in a room with no exercise at all and go beyond the body.
No. That may be for most people. If they lock themselves in a room, they'll sleep there. To keep themselves vibrant, BMI, all these three are the tools. All the three tools have to be kept in good shape. So we are not talking of becoming a, what they call exercise, becoming fanatical about exercise, being obsessed with exercise. No, not that way. But exercise is, to keep yourself fit. What if somebody locks oneself in a room and then has some back pain, has some, neck pain, etc.? Through some exercises, one can be free of all those things to the extent possible. No matter what you do, some health problems do come to most people.
It should be okay.
Okay, so in simple terms, don't take my mention of exercise as having to invest a lot into it, but everybody should decide what is necessary for one to be fit. Fitness is important.
Thank you.
All right, pretty much I think unless there is anybody else here, we will conclude. Yeah, we'll surely hold maybe packaged in a little different way another session on this topic. Till then, namaste. Thank you all.
Pranam Swamiji.
Hari Om.